Hello, Senator Johnny Isakson. How are you?
Well, Bill, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for taking time out here in Southeast Georgia.
I'm honored to do it.
I think I was at a fundraiser back in October. I think it was Jack Kingston's barbecue and picnic, and you were there with several others, and it was a really good time.
I enjoyed it very much. That was out near Savannah.
Yes, sir. Well, let's start with what's kind of on the front burner right now. I know there's a funding fight over Homeland Security and Obama's executive amnesty. What's your take on that right now?
Well, obviously, the president has overstepped his bounds, and one Texas judge has already ruled that way. The Department of Homeland Security handles all the immigration issues in the United States of America and border security, so they should be funded. But we're trying to include in that funding a repeal of the executive orders issued by the president. So the fight is not over funding the Department of Homeland Security. The fight is over defunding the president's illegal amnesty.
Would you be willing to fund a clean bill even if it funded Obama's executive amnesty? Because I know there's a lot of people that feel that needs to be funded.
Well, I'm not willing to defund the Department of Homeland Security on our border, because if we do that, we're going to be subject to terrorist attacks and everything else. I'm for funding the Department of Homeland Security and defunding the president's executive orders.
There has been a couple of things that you've been involved in as far as different bills. One deals with human trafficking, and I know there's a lot of talk about with open borders and especially with immigration issues, human trafficking is a concern and a problem even in America.
Human trafficking is a major problem around the world, and particularly in the United States of America, and particularly Atlanta being a crossroads for those coming through from the Central America and Mexico coming into the United States with drugs or underage girls they're selling into prostitution. It's a terrible, terrible human rights issue, and I'm doing everything I can, along with Senator Corker, the chairman of the committee, to get an international effort to stop human trafficking.
Fort Stewart is not too far away where we're at. You are involved in a lot of veterans affairs and Veterans Choice Act. What are some of the challenges in dealing with the VA and veterans now?
Well, Bill, the Veterans Administration health care delivery system alone, not the total VA, just the health delivery system, has 314,000 employees. The only bigger government agency is the United States military, all four branches of the service combined. So it is a huge monolithic organization that has had its problems of late, and we're trying to get them straightened out. Robert McDonald, the new Secretary of the VA, is doing a good job. We're trying to support him in what he's trying to do in the committee to implement Veterans Choice, to see to it that every veteran in America who lives within 40 miles of a VA health center gets served within 30 minutes or within 30 days. And if they live outside 40 miles, they can go to the private sector if they can't be served within 30 days. We want to have our aid and health care to our veterans as timely and as close proximity as possible.
There's been a request for 5,000 more employees for the VA. Is that a good thing, or is that a solution, or is there more that needs to be done besides that?
That's not a solution, number one, and it's not a good thing, number two. The ratio of veterans to employees in veterans health care is 21-1. That's a better ratio than pupil-teacher ratio in Georgia kindergartens around the state. So we have the manpower to deliver the system. We need the delivery system, mechanics within the VA to work better, and the healthcare delivery systems to work better. We don't need more employees. We need more effort.
We know that there was a big fight over the Keystone Pipeline. Barack Obama has vetoed that bill that was sent forward. Is there a thought of possibly going at it once again and seeing if he will pass it again and putting up another bill?
We're going to send it back to him. I think that'll be on the floor as soon as we get through the DHS issue and the illegal amnesty of the president. We're going to send him Keystone Pipeline and give him one more chance. We're still 3 votes short of enough votes to override his veto, so his veto will put an end to Keystone temporarily. Ultimately, as long as the Canadians don't take it to Vancouver and then to China, we'll ultimately get it, but it's a real shame the president's being so reluctant to do it now.
Do you think that you guys will get enough votes to have to override his veto? Is that something that's in the works?
We're trying. We're down to 3. We're 3 short of having enough to override the veto. We're at 64 votes, and we need 67, so we're still working at it. But we're going to have to get 3 more Democrats to come over and vote with us.
Taking a look at what's going on, we see this on our TV sets all the time, the awful videos coming over from ISIS with these 21 Coptic Christians that were executed. It's just really hard to fathom what's going on in the Middle East. What's your take on what we need to do with ISIS and what is happening right now?
Well, first of all, we're in the ultimate war between good and evil, and we've tied one hand behind the back of our military troops and our generals and commanders-in-chief. I'd vehemently disagree with the president's approach to using airstrikes only. I think we ought to use every available conventional resource to take ISIL on. The only way you can ever deal with somebody who will kill themselves in order to kill you or will cut off somebody's head is to kill them first. And the quicker we do it to ISIL, the better off we're going to be. We learned in the 1930s what happens when you have an evil, genocidal person in charge of a country and you look the other way like we did on Adolf Hitler and end up seeing what happens. Well, if we look the other way and don't go after ISIL now, that caliphate's going to grow in the Levant, and it's going to grow around the world, and we're going to have more incidents like Paris and like Brussels, and a danger to every living soul in the world. So we need to take ISIL on. We need to put boots on the ground if necessary, and we need to kill every single one of them and eradicate them from the face of the earth.
There's a vote coming up for Loretta Lynch on the floor to be Attorney General. I know that I've talked to David Perdue about this. He said that he is voting no on her nomination. What's your take on the nomination process here for Loretta Lynch, and how will you vote?
Well, she's been thoroughly vetted by the committee, and she was asked the $64,000 question, and that is whether or not she supported the decisions made by the president on immigration, and she said that she did, and for that reason alone, I can't support her.
Export-Import Bank, I know that is coming up here in the next month or two, probably closer to the summertime, about it being reauthorized. What's your sense about the Export-Import Bank?
The Export-Import Bank serves a great purpose, and there's no better example of that than Gulfstream, which is not too far from Baxley. The G5s, G6s, G7s that they build are bought by foreign countries that need that financing. It's important for jobs in Georgia. It is important to understand, however, we shouldn't be funding soft or giving beneficial loans to sovereign wealth funds that have more money than the law allows to begin with. So I support the extension of the Ex-Im Bank as long as we don't fund sovereign wealth funds with taxpayer-subsidized loans when they got the money themselves to make the purchase.
We're hearing a lot about, in Georgia specifically, about gas prices possibly going up with taxes to fund transportation. I know it's a state issue right now, but we hear also at the federal level with the Highway Transportation Fund running out, possibly expiring. What are your thoughts on that? What's the best way to fix that problem?
Well, the states and the federal government have the same problem. We have an antiquated model to raise money to keep up with our highways and keep our maintenance and operation going. We have a number of cents, fixed number of cents per gallon that we charge for the gasoline tax. Consumption of gasoline is going down as a ratio of miles driven because of EPA standards that are up and up and up, more efficient cars. So the revenue goes down as the utility and use of the roads goes up. So we have to find a new mechanism, and I think we need to get away from the gas tax and get into a user fee charge at the refinement level of petroleum. That would be the best way to fund the Federal Highway Trust Fund.
Is there concern with how the money is spent? We're hearing a lot about, the money will be spent on a beautification project or a park along the highway and not on hard stuff like bridges and roads. Is there some issues with how the money is spent?
At the state level, no. At the federal level, yes. And the issue is you ought to do it on roads first. Anything that's like a greenway or a railroad track or something like that ought to only be funded after all the roads and maintenance have been done. There's an amendment that I co-authored along with Mike Lee from Utah that says you take the federal tax money and send it back to the states for them to determine where the money goes in each and every state instead of the federal government doing it. That would be the best solution to the problem because we need to spend the Highway Trust Fund money on what it's intended to do, and that's fix our highways, roads, and bridges.
Well, Senator Johnny Isakson, I was hoping to have you on for about 15 minutes, but you are so concise with your answers. You're not one of these politicians that go on and on and on and on forever and filibuster, which I really appreciate. But it's been great talking to you, and best of luck, and we hope to see you here in Georgia soon.
Well, best to everybody in Baxley. I've got Yates Branch, a young man from Baxley, Georgia, who's one of my chief aides in Washington. He does a great job and keeps me informed daily on the goings-on in southeast Georgia. So I appreciate all that y'all do.
Well, thank you very much, and that's a good reminder that I probably need to bump into him and meet him sometime.
Take care, Bill, and have a great day.
Thank you, sir.